Hello friends, welcome to a brand new channel of Unacademy. This is Unfiltered by Unacademy and this is me, Dr. Sidharth Arora. So my friends, this is a beautiful beginning for all of you. Now you would wonder why. Because many a times, we as educators express our own strategies, our own thought processes without probably addressing what is really erupting in your minds. So we thought, why not plan out a channel in which learners representing your thought processes, representing your viewpoints, would directly ask questions to us, the educators, and in all our wisdom and in all our intelligence and limited knowledge, we will try and address those queries. So I think this is a great opportunity. And to be able to address to the questions of the learners, and that too one-on-one, we need to have clarity of thought. That is my belief. So I would be sharing whatever I know as an educator, whatever I have learned over the years of teaching. We will try and share it with all of you through the questions of Kanishk Gomes, who is one of the brightest of learners that I have come across, especially on the Unacademy platform. So today with us is Kanishk, and I'd like Kanishk to introduce himself instead of me introducing. Kanishk, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very flattering introduction. So I have started my UPSC CSE journey relatively recently. It hasn't even been a year. And funnily enough, I have none to thank but you, because it was your video I saw first when I started on my civil services journey. And yeah, I just like to be curious. I just want to be better every day. And this is probably one of the best opportunities I have had. And I hope in the future there could be more learners from the platform who could, have some of the best educators in the country for the civil services exam entertain their questions. So, sir, that was enough about me.
I would love if I would like is, for the time being, it is not only Kanishk asking me questions. Let Kanishk be the representative of a large number of learners across the length and breadth of this country who might have several such queries, which probably we might not have addressed as yet, or probably even if we have addressed, we'll not address it to the whole 9 yards. So let us make sure that you ask whatever comes to your mind, and I'll try and answer in whatever in my limited knowledge I'll be able to do. Right? So without much ado, let's start this, and let us try and hope and pray that all our learners get something very, very useful out of this entire chit chat. Right? All right. So, as they say, shoot. All right.
So, sir, my first question to you would be, we all know Dr. Arora, the educator, but, very few know Dr. Arora, the person, on a personal level. So I would be very grateful if you let us know a little bit about your life journey, what you studied, when did you start teaching civil services students, and how exactly has been your journey teaching civil services students and now here on Unacademy?
Okay, I come from a defense background, Kanishk, right? I don't know how to say this. Okay, fortunately, unfortunately, we lost a couple of very young men in our family to different battle zones, different times in life. And at that time, although I was the first one, or was probably the most enthusiastic one to join the defense forces, to join the forge, but then the family pressure was such that because we lost so many men already, so 4 to be precise, in a very short span of about 15-20 years. So nobody allowed me to join the forge, and that took me to the next one, because my mother was always keen on making me actually a doctor. So being a good student that I was, in those days used to be an exam called pre-medical test, All India PMT used to be called. So I managed to clear that. and I joined Lokmanya Tilak Medical College, Mumbai, and pursued my medicine. I was a good student. My brain was performing very well. My heart was not there. Simple as that. So I had always an inclination of joining the law. I thought I had that kind of so-called understanding of the law and the procedure, and also I like the power behind it. Very, very frankly, on this part, I'm very, very, very influenced by Mr. Ram Jethmalani. I had met him a couple of times, and so on and so forth. That took me to the next job, and I met one very important influence on my life was Dr. Fatnani, who was my head of the department in forensic medicine. He motivated me that even as a doctor and getting a background in forensic medicine, you can actually go into law. So one thing took to another. I shifted from Bombay to Delhi and then pursued law. But I really had, I mean, I was a gifted lawyer. That's the best I can use. The word is kind of a cliche, but that's the word. So I started practicing early in the Supreme Court, very early, hardly a junior for a few days, and then God was kind. And during this period, financial realities also hit me very hard. Because, one, as a doctor also, even if you finish off your medicine, money does not start flowing day one, right? As a lawyer also, money does not start flowing day one. And I really, really wanted to pursue law and do something which was close to my heart. But financial realities are the truth of the matter. And money was, I wasn't coming from the kind of, I was not in money kind of stuff, it was not that kind of situation. Not that was very bad, but it was not huge. So I started teaching. It was part-time initially, and just to compensate. But then something or the other started happening, Kanishk, and it was very simple. I realized that with every passing month, I was becoming a better lawyer, the way I was becoming a better teacher. And me becoming a better lawyer was feeding on me becoming a better teacher, and me becoming a better teacher was making me a better lawyer. Because I was understanding the concepts far better. I was able to put forth my views very emphatically and clearly in very simple words. And so both of them started feeding one another. And that's the long and short of it. So today here I am.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So, sir, you never wanted to join the rank and file of the bureaucracy?
No, of course.
Has it always been the back of your mind?
Of course. It is a pent-up desire in me, actually. One of the great reasons, one of the real reasons that I wanted to do something bigger than myself. Very, very frank. I did not like myself to be confined to so-called mundane part of life. And I had only two choices. One was bureaucracy. Second was law. I did not know a third one. And because the forge part I had missed. So that bus I had already missed. So bureaucracy, but then and I think everyone who's watching us knows, bureaucracy or preparation of UPSC examination requires a commitment of a few years at least when you're actually not there in the so-called financial world. But as I told you, financial realities had hit me very hard at that time. Okay. So, in so many words, and not so many words, but that was a fact matter of it. So I had to let go of this. And I very, very, very distinctly remember the year of, or the birthday wherein I had passed the age of UPSC. I remember that birthday very, very clearly, and I remember this is gone. So I'll never be after this. So, this is one of those desires which never got fulfilled. And, but then God has been kind. I've been able to teach several more of the IAS officers and IPS officers. So one way or the other, I'm half a bureaucrat already. I think so. I like to believe that.
On a lighter note, maybe we can see you become a full bureaucrat with lateral entry. Maybe if our luck would have it.
Who knows? Who just knows? Yes.
So, when do you think you developed this unique way of teaching? Was it there from the get-go, or did it take a lot of time?
Kanish, I'll be very honest on this part. It took lots and lots of time. It took the Sidharth, which is teaching now. Okay, and I have been actually able to develop a method in which I can storyfy anything and of polity, governance, and international relation, and even somebody who does not have the remotest idea of what that topic would be, in after a couple of hours would be understanding and having a fair understanding of this part. It took quite a bit. I think it took about a decade of so-called, fine tuning of the entire thing. And it also actually manifested into reality because I started understanding the subject. It does not come, one cannot be isolated from the other one. Just not possible. You have to understand the subject. So when I was reading, thankfully I was always in the habit of reading. So when you're reading, like Dr. Ambedkar for that matter, I'm just giving an example, and several other books. So then you understand what is a book. That's what I think. A book is nothing else but you're entering the author's mind. For the time being, you are him. For the time being, you are understanding his shoes, and especially the authors of yesteryears. Because today I've seen many of the books being written probably more for commercial purposes than for actually sharing of knowledge. But those were, when Dr. Ambedkar wrote, these were when I remember very distinctly when I was reading Annihilation of Caste. Although I did not have even the smallest inkling of what is all this about, but then I could feel myself. It was a very somatic kind of an experience. I could actually feel in my body. So what Dr. Ambedkar is trying to show. So gradually, then arguing in the Supreme Court is a whole new experience. And I have always understood one thing, that you learn by osmosis. So you give me an opportunity. So like recently, since you asked me, so recently we lost Mr. Soli Sorabji. Now, Soli Sorabji sir has a place amongst. I mean, he's a place. He's in the Mount Everest. He's like God to us lawyers. But you won't believe, one fine day while I was in Delhi, I got to know that Soli Sorabji sir is one of the has come and he's staying in a 5-star hotel. I don't want to name. So I actually made it a point that I waited for him at the reception just to say hello to him, just that I could spend 5 minutes with him. So this was my habit for a long time, that I always believe that if you're in the same time-space axis, you start learning by osmosis. So these were the things which actually took me to that. And then gradually it went into a story. Today it has become, joy while teaching, and I'm sure for everyone who's learning also. It's an easier way of learning a technical subject, I guess.
Right. And if I can add something, having attended pretty much all of your classes since I think sometime last year, I have also noticed that you tend to change your method of teaching a little bit every class. Every batch course that there's always something new. There's always something different. Yeah. So, we can, I guess, learn a lot from your method of innovation to keeping, to ensure you keep it interesting all the time.
Yes.
And
Ganesh, I'm sorry. Ganesh, please finish the question. I'm sorry, your voice slightly got away.
No, please, sir. Please go ahead.
So my point was, Ganesh, polity and governance is something that is a very dynamic subject. And dynamic is a very cliche, but the point here is that you also tend to understand things at a very different level sometimes. And I always make it a point that I always have a pen and a register and a notebook. I think I've already shared it with my learners. So I keep writing whatever comes to my mind. So and I learn so much from you people. You won't believe. You people, the learners, the way you people ask questions. It is like, oh, I never thought it this way. Sometimes you won't believe that your questions have actually motivated me to find answers. And that is the reason why every successive batch will learn. I'm sure it will happen, and I hope that this will continue. We will learn more about this subject. That's the way.
Right. Thank you for that, sir. Now, delving into, something that pretty much every aspirant wonders, right, at the beginning of their preparation. Why do this? Right? What should be my motivation? A lot of people see the power and the influence, and yet that is not always enough to persuade someone to embark on this path. So what do you think, aside from the obvious privilege of serving the nation and the tangible impact a bureaucrat can have on the lives of the citizens. What should be the ideal motivation behind every aspirant? And before you answer, sir, I think it would be appropriate to breathe a silent Jai Hind for all the martyrs we have lost, and especially the ones from your family, and for the ones who we continue to lose today. And by martyrs, I do not only mean our soldiers, I also mean our frontline workers who continue to work tirelessly in this pandemic. And yes, sir. So
I think everyone at this juncture should take a 5-second pause, and every conversation can wait, everything can wait. But in words as well as in spirit, let us have a loud and clear Jai Hind. Okay, loud and clear. So let the world hear it out. That, and you won't believe, Kanish, now that you asked me what should be the ideal motivation. Ideal is a very utopian kind of a word. We don't know what to go into that part. But I can answer if me, right? Now today at this juncture of my life, okay, I've had, God has been very kind to me with wealth and name and power and recognition, everything. Given an opportunity, I would always say that regardless of what you get, there is one thing that one human being has to be differentiated from all other creatures, all right, animals, plants alike. We have two things actually. One is imagination, and second is empathy. Imagination. I can imagine what will be the world after COVID-19, if at all that work is. Okay, I don't know what that world would be. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but I want to imagine. Okay, and I want to imagine a better world. When I want to imagine a better world, see, Kanish, we are the chosen ones. We are lucky that we are alive today. We are breathing. We are at our homes. Our loved ones are close by. But we empathize with people around us who are suffering today. If I cannot do that, that I should not be calling myself a human being. Simple as that. Let's call ourselves as Kingdom Animalia ka small part. That's it. Simple as that. Because empathy is a very, very important part. Now, empathy dies a very sudden death. Okay, if you don't do anything about it. I have this is my belief. What do? Then it becomes a word play. Then it becomes empty, absolutely empty, and in vacuum nothing survives. So now I have empathy and I want to do something about it. I want to imagine a better world. So all three things are connected. Now, how do I do something about it? Either I come from money, I have huge resources, or I use some kind of power. These are only two things, right? That's and the power could be of anything. It could be of resources, it could be physical, it could be mental. Now we are all intellectuals. Okay, you are all intellectuals. What better way of being able to provide some kind of kinetic energy to this empathy if by merely, I'm not saying merely in the wrong sense, but by passing an exam, okay, you come and place yourself or locate yourself in a place where whatever comes to your heart in the form of empathy, you're actually able to manifest into reality. My friend Kanesh, I think this is the biggest blessing that God can himself give you. And what is more important is, I have done this. You can do it. You can start anywhere. I've been doing it, since last 10 years. I know that. But why wait for my age? Okay. I hope you're understanding. So as a doctor, as a lawyer, today I can make things happen. Okay. I know during COVID-19, I was able to, and God has been kind that I was able to help certain people. But somebody at your age group, 23, 24, you young guys, okay, you can, you have the entire career of the next 35 years or whatever, left to you can change lives accordingly. If you're not able to change lives, that knowledge that you can change life is the biggest motivation. So there was a very nice thing. It's like, it was said in some other form, but one Shah said very nicely, कि जी ले बंदे जिंदगी कि ये जिंदगानी फिर कहां, कि अगर मिल भी गई जिंदगी ये जवानी फिर कहां. I hope you are understanding. So the point here is the beautiful motivation about bureaucracy is the power that it gives to our young men and women. So that makes it the motivation. You can do tons and tons of work at this young age, beginning at a young age. For power, fine, but for what? Teleological, for what? That matters.
Right. Thank you, sir, for that. And speaking about motivation on a more lighthearted note, because of the innumerable shairis that you've uttered in class, I was motivated to go back and relearn Urdu. So I think we had a conversation in class about ideal Urdu newspapers, and so I'm reading that now. I'm trying to brush up on mine. And now back to the main conversation. About now, I would like to ask you, since we've moved across the barrier of motivation, right? That's one of the first things that comes to someone's mind. And obviously after the why, there is always the how, right? So how do you study? What is the ideal strategy? And on that note, I'd like to ask you, what is the, obviously I'm not going to say ideal here, because again, there is no ideal strategy. It differs from person to person. But what do you think is the best strategy that an aspirant can come up with according to, their situation, their circumstance? What do you see as, the best way a person can, go across the indomitable barrier of the civil services examination? Many say it is constant perseverance, while others say, instead of hard work, you have to do smart work. While many others say it's the ideal mentor, right? So, or is it a combination of all three? What would you say to this?
See, Ganesh, your question actually says volumes about how you have actually understood the problem. Understanding of the problem is, and I'm proud that you're asking me these questions, and these are very important questions. So actually your question is an indication of three different paths of preparation of this exam. Now, three different paths is, one, yes, you do smart work. Okay, fine. But what is smart work? That question cries out and begs an answer. But what is smart work? Now, smart work for me is something that is valid to a particular exam. Let me clarify this part. So I'm preparing for civil service examination. So I should know that whatever I am studying will be relevant for civil services examination. Okay. I'm preparing the same constitution for a judicial services examination. So it has to fit that requirement of a judicial service exam. The same constitution can also be studied for probably arguing in the Supreme Court. That will be an entirely different issue. So instead of going from A to Z, let's go from Z to A, right? So first, very important, step number one is all the aspirants must look at least the last 10 years previous year questions. Okay. Get the hang of it. And when I say 10-year questions, okay, I don't want you to use only your eyesight. Okay, there's a difference between seeing and vision, that part. Your eyes cannot see what your brain does not know. Simple as that. Okay. So that's the way. So does not have to be physical, it has to be mental. So if I am given an opportunity, I'm just giving an example. Let me consider myself as a student. So first I go to, suppose, Unacademy Plus classes, and I get a hold of, and I see, and I'm an average student. So I notice, and it's like, oh, Kanesh is a very good student. So what do you do? What will be the first thing I'll do? I'll befriend Kanesh, or rather I'll join a group with Kanesh. Why? Because, and along with Kanesh and your group, the birds of a feather flock together, your kind of mental group, I'll try and address, or I'll try and understand what does these 10 years previous year question mean. Okay, it's not just reading the question. Now I know that these are the four corners in which for the last 10 years is a pretty good data with regards to this exam, the UPSC examining body is being asking me. This is step number one. So this should fall completely into my mind. So nobody is going to ask me what is the birth date of Dr. Ambedkar. I should be very, very clear about it. Having said so, I should also not be ignoring the fact that Dr. Ambedkar was the chairman of the drafting committee. So, I hope you have I have been able to take that point. So, where am I spilling out and where am I sticking, within the four walls of this? Step number one. Step number two is constant perseverance. So, I'm taking words from your question. Okay. It is a boring, it is cruel, and it is an emotionally, mentally, physically taxing journey. Okay. And more the people speak to you, they are more going to cause problems to you rather than solving problems to you from you, because they will come with you with data. They will come you with very, very dangerous data. 10 lakh students, 1,000 seats, 1,000 seats have become 800 seats, 800 have become 700. So none of them is helping me. Instead, they're making my life worse. So it is a boring journey. Get ready for it. So the idea is, my friend, he's right now serving the Indian Army, he says a very nice thing. He says in the Indian Army Para-Commando course, or the commando course, they teach you that get mentally ready for the worst ever nightmare that you can possibly conceive. And whatever better comes out of this course, whatever less problems that you face, take it as a bonus. So the point here is, get mentally ready. This is going to be the most boring thing. This is going to be the most strenuous part of my life. But this is only an year or so or whatever. So don't try to find glamour. Don't try to find enjoyment in this journey. This is not there. Last but not the least is language. I absolutely think this is the connecting link. In fact, this is the missing link in the preparation of civil service examination for most of the students, most of the aspects. Many of them, and I think I'm speaking right now at a very classical, ironic situation, because I'm speaking to a person whom I'm actually taking as an example of somebody who knows language very well. And Kanesh, you are amongst those people. I have spoken about at your back about the kind of language control that you have. And I'm sure that you also appreciate that really helps you in trying to understand a subject and trying to express, because this is an exam which depends, or at a large extent, on understanding of the subject as well as expressing it. So language is something that out of those 10 lakh aspirants, 8.5 lakh are missing. Okay. In fact, more, if I'm not wrong. So the three angles to this is: one, a mentor, a group, a support group, okay, who will help you doing smart work. Second, every day is a boring task. Get mentally ready for it. Third, work upon your language. Okay. Rest of it is the mundane stuff which everybody knows. There is data, there is books, there is MCQs and etc., which everybody knows. But these are the parts which most people ignore. That's what my 2 cents on this part is.
Right, sir. And since you mentioned about the data is well known. And yet, and I'm not sure where exactly I heard this, but I've taken this to heart. There might be just, an odd 800 seats, but ultimately you only need one. You don't need 1,000. You don't need 10,000. You just need one for yourself. And speaking about mentors, and now that the pandemic and the lockdown has practically shifted education online, right? Nothing's open, and that too for good reason. Students are finding very little outlets, for example, offline coaching, right? And in terms of that, Unacademy, at least for me, has been of huge help, right? But many would say that to a certain degree, there lacks a face-to-face interaction, right? So what do you think are the gaps that Unacademy fills in where, many other platforms cannot, whether it be offline, whether it be self-study? And what do you think we could work on in terms of online education?
Can I say, Unacademy came far later in picture with regards to my teaching career also. So for the longest time, I was teaching offline. Now, before I answer what are the pros of Unacademy, I like to say what are the pros of an offline class. That's where we should start with. So an offline class is something that we were conditioned to, because ever since we were, in the school, we were being taught physically, right? So the so-called physically, so we are being, but in person, so-called to say. The situation here is the school, colleges, we've attended lectures and classes and so on. So everything was one-to-one, teachers or whatever. So there is a conditioning of my brain which says, oh, there's a teacher, there's a board, there's a notebook, there's a pen, and here he comes and here she comes and teaches, lectures are over, we go back. So my brain got absolutely habituated. And now there could be percentages of absorption, ifs and but we were okay accepting that part. Now then comes this online platform, right? Now online platform comes for education. Now for most of us, and in fact for including me, till the time when Unacademy came into the picture, right? At least around that time, prior to that, for me online meant entertainment. For me, online means it was, synonym of some kind of entertainment or some kind of, letting go, right? It could be a movie, it could be some video, it could be Insta, it could be Twitter, Facebook. It could not be something which is going to make my career, So, there was a paradigm shift is required. Oh, brother, you're not going for entertainment anymore. Okay, you are about to make a career out of yourself. And your brain says, what are you speaking, brother? Entertainment place. Where are you going? You're not going to study. Yes, at maximum, you can, you might learn some extracurricular kind of a thing online. That is what at least most people understood. And then comes the COVID crisis and so on. And now suddenly your brain is the necessity is the mother of invention. And now your brain has no other choices but to absorb this. Now comes that, will I be taught seriously on this or will it be entertainment? Because I am dependent on this one platform to make my career. Make no mistake about it. This is not merely an exam. This is not a compartment exam. This is going to be my career. This is as serious as it comes and as serious as it happens. So now we start training on this part. And I made sure that when I came on Unacademy platform, I took it more seriously than offline also. I'll tell you why. The point here is that when you are at an offline place, when you're at a physical place, okay, then there is a paucity of time. And I mean it very seriously, because there is a very, very strict time schedule in which you have to so-called, quote unquote, finish the syllabus. Okay. Over here at Unacademy, I had practically unlimited number of hours, unlimited number of batches, unlimited number of times that I could teach the same subject, a topic again and again to the same batch. And I think you would very easily appreciate, I might have taught fundamental rights probably 20 times in 20 different ways, sometimes in the form of special classes, sometimes in the form of YouTube videos, sometimes in the form of plus classes, sometimes in the form of revision. And I am like, what is happening? You're understanding? So what happens over here is, I cannot repeat the same thing again. So I have to bring in something new. And when I say new, it does not mean it has to be new only for the sake of being new. It has to be something which is value addition. Okay. Now, when you have already done whatever you've done, so I'll remember whatever I had taught in the offline classes, the so-called offline classes, it actually, the entire thing got over whatever I had in the first few months of Unacademy. I did not have in it because that is what I was teaching within the 3 hours. So fundamental rights, I had to finish off in 9 hours maximum. I remember this very distinctly. Now in 9 hours, sometimes if you could recall, I don't even touch, half of or, 1/4 of fundamental rights. My fundamental rights will go ages, it will go from where to where. So then it becomes a very, very serious job. And now I have to work. So believe me, that every class that I had taken, over the last 2 years that Unacademy, I've joined Unacademy, I have prepared for a 2-hour class by at least 4 hours of work, And you won't believe that this is happening even today. So today, before I started your interview, I just took a class on reservation. Okay.
Yeah.
and I finished reservation. So I had taught partially, and then I had to go through the new concept of Maratha reservation. Okay, and this is certainly it comes from someplace else. But imagine this is an offline class, and I finished your course in the month of January. How would you meet me, or how would I meet you? So Unacademy has actually, that valley has been covered, wherein there will be any lack of or any discontinuation between the learner and the educator. This brings us to another con also, that there's a difference between physical or so-called one-to-one teaching and over the screen. And this is what I compensate. Now, how do I compensate? You might have noticed that many a times I'm sharing jokes. Many a times I'm sharing stories. Many a time I'm doing shairis. Many a time I'm sharing lifetime experiences of not only me, but also of the great people like Dr. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi's and, something. And also certain words, like I'm calling up Nehru or something like that, So what happens is, it brings that human angle back into the picture. So on the screen is not somebody, is not, some pixels, 720 or whatever, it is a man talking to you. It's a person talking to you. I'm scolding you also, you're understanding. I'm making a joke of you also. Okay. I'm making a joke of myself also. Okay. So why am I doing it? Let's get the human angle. That's the only part missing. And that part, once compensated, there's nothing better than an online platform. Nothing better. That's what my point is.
Yes, and I do agree. Many would say that online education brings in a degree of transactionalism or impersonality. But, at least from my experience, that has not been the case, because aside from, in-class interaction with the comment box, which itself can be limited, in many occasions, every third class or every fourth class, I think, being a doubt session, that gives a great opportunity for the educator and the learner to have, a one-on-one clarification. And I think that really cuts through the metaphorical ice, for the lack of a better word.
So.
And so since we've discussed about strategy and how Unacademy can help, it'd be great if we could start to zoom in a little, right? Other than the broad idea of constant perseverance or smart work, when a student sits to read, for example, Lakshmikant, right? What is the ideal way to study? Not as a strategy, but do you, rote learn every word on the book? Do you understand the concepts and, keep revisiting them in your mind? Or, do you try your best to apply the concepts? Like, for example, if you look at a newspaper and then you see the Maratha reservation and you recall what we've learned in class, for example, what would be your perception on this?
Ganesh, I can give a theoretical answer to this or a real answer to this. So tell me which one do you want?
Well, I personally like both. So it depends on how much time.
Theoretical answer, I'll give you next 20 minutes of a theoretical answer. I can actually take a video on that. I think that's it. You want a practical answer, you want a real answer. What actually comes to my mind, okay, what I actually feel, I can share it with you. Choice is yours. Take your call.
I think a real answer would be the best in that situation.
Okay, so since you are interviewing me, I have to, let that happen. See, I'll be very honest on that part. So I'll first go back slightly in time and I'll ask you this question. I'll tell you, I'll share you something very important. So one fine day, I'm not naming that lawyer. Okay, he's a great lawyer. Okay, everybody knows him. So because this was a one-on-one meeting, so I don't want to share. And today he's senior to me. So one fine day I asked him a question, and I'm very similar to like Ganesh is asking me. I asked him, I said, sir, how is it that the same piece of law, the same legislation, the same policy, the same point of law, you are able to satisfy the judge, and probably us lesser lawyers are not able to? This is about 20 years, 15 years back that I asked him. That's very simple. And I was And I was actually making a mental note of it. I was like, God, today I'm going to become the greatest lawyer because the greatest secret will be shared with me. All right. And he said, and we over a cup of coffee, and he took a sip and he said, Sidharth, I don't know. I was like, what is this? I mean, after so many, such a loaded silence, and then you say, I don't know. But then I, wanted to ask that question. So I asked that question to again and again, because I was working with him after a few years. So I realized one thing, Kanishk, and I believe me or not, that sometimes the entire machinery starts working in such a way that you don't know what individual parts are doing. I hope I have taken the point here, and this is as honest as an answer as a lawyer can give. No, so and that's I have to keep the fraternity alive also. So I somehow don't know that how do you study a book like Lakshmikant? Why? Number one, Lakshmikant is not the book. Okay, I have nothing against that book, and I have got nothing saying that this book, I cannot emphasize the importance of this book. I cannot underemphasize. I can't do any of this part. Yes, it's a book, and in fact, in the absence of any alternative book, this is the only book of quality. I'm just speaking of my subject, right? Second, I actually started reading Lakshmikant when I made the 100-part Lakshmikant series for Unacademy on YouTube. Believe me, I did not read Lakshmikant, read Lakshmikant prior to that. And today I realized that the 100-part YouTube Lakshmikant series has about, if more or less, about 5 crore views. Okay. And many of them know me, that I started that part. But believe me, if you go to that part, if you watch those videos, you will see that it is 30% of Lakshmikant, 70% what I knew. I was the one, I was teaching, okay, in the guise of Lakshmikant, so to say, for the lack of, I was teaching, okay, I have completely ignored that book after a while. So I was finishing topics of 20 minutes, 30 minutes also at time. But this is what I say. So what my point here is, why am I saying this? That first, find a mentor. First, find a mentor. First, find somebody who's been there, done that. Simple. It could be a teacher, it could be your parent, it could be your brothers, sisters, somebody who knows the subject. Do it in reverse engineering form. Don't do it from A to Z. Don't open Lakshmikant and then try to find out East India Company came to India. I don't care it came to India or not. I want to know, with East India companies coming to India, what happened to my polity? Okay. And what happened to that polity when we became independent? What happened to that polity when Congress government came? What happened to that polity when Janata Party government came? What happened to that polity when coalition came? What happened to that polity when after coalition we had a Narendra Modi government after many years of coalition, dominant political or majority party? And what will happen to this polity after COVID-19? Now imagine you opening Lakshmikant today and the first was the East India Company comes to India, and I was like, how can you connect all these thoughts? Now get somebody who touches that line and opens this part. So I am not a supporter of understanding Saregama Padanisa will explain you Sargam by yourself. You won't understand this. Okay, you'll just keep doing this part. Okay, so you'll just keep doing down, up, down, up, down, up. It won't happen. Instead of that, go and meet a guitarist and he'll tell you, why are you doing this? And then it will make sense to you. So I'm not going into the depth of your question, and I will not go into the theoretical part of step number 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's just not me. I won't be able to answer that question. Okay. Because I don't believe in memorization for the sake of memorization. I won't believe that memorization is bad. At times, memorization is good, but I need somebody to hold my hand and say, Sidharth, memorize this, or Kanish, memorize this. Sometimes I say, so preamble, yes, you have to memorize. We, the people of India, having solemn resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, social, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, political liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and opportunity, fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual, and unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly on this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. Full stop. I need that also. But my friend, I also need to know that my preamble is something that gives me goosebumps. Kanish, you've seen that. Okay. We the people, these three words is for which Indians have given up their lives. People have given their careers. People have lost lives. They've spent in that cellular jail. They've given kala pani. They've given everything of their lives. So I always say that there's an emotion attached. Understand that. There's a philosophy attached. Understand that. You have a Berubari case. You have to understand that. Is it a part of the Constitution? Understand that. Why did Madam Indira Gandhi change it? Understand that. Also memorize it. So there is no the answer to your question. So after all this while, that's it.
So I think, the ideal strategy then becomes sort of a catholic learning, right? That you understand, what lies behind. So for example, when you read, Article 14 or Article 21, you can just, skim over it and you can memorize every word it contains.
Sure.
But then when you realize the manifest impact it has had on the lives of Indians who are essentially, enslaved, for the lack of a better word, in terms of rights and civil liberties by the British, that's when you realize the value of these words. And
Kanish, the same thing I can ask this to everyone, and I think everyone who's hearing, listening to us, watching us, I can ask the same question to you also, and you can ask the same question to anyone else. How do you do horse riding? Please answer that question. Or how do you swim? Okay, explain
you
that.
Dive in. You get on a horse.
You dive in. That's the word. You dive in. Okay. Is there any secret? Stretch your hand. Okay. Let your body go loose. Now, how do you let your body go loose? I don't understand. You understand? So you need a coach. You need somebody to just hold hands and say, "Arey, body hold loose karne ka matlab aisa." I hope you understand. And then suddenly you learn. That's the way. So like
you sometimes need someone to push you over.
True.
Into the pool.
So I hope you're understanding. If you give me an answer, if you pay me for the next 30 minutes and say, "Sir, how do you do swimming?" So I'll tell you 20 different physical steps. None of them will actually make any sense.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
Correct, sir. Yeah. So now that we've, essentially addressed these questions of strategy and how to study, now let us talk about something that, tends to both worry a lot of aspirants and, for some aspirants, it's a sigh of relief. That being the changes in the exam pattern. Now, putting aside what happened in 2013 and, the manifest changes it brought, the protests that subsequently happened, that aside, when you pick up, for example, last year's prelims and mains examination paper, you see a sort of different strand, right? And many are saying that the exam is becoming both dynamic and it is also demanding on-the-spot thinking or quick-wittedness from the aspirants, right? And, what do you think, are these observations correct or are these, completely unfounded? Was the exam a little different because of the prevailing pandemic situation? Or, do you think that this new exam pattern, this is the new normal?
I don't know, Kanish, is it the new norm or new normal? I don't know. But it is certainly, I would have to agree with you that somehow UPSC has become so-called practical in its approach. Okay. They're actually looking for administrators. They're not looking for rote memorization and so on and so forth. So even if when they ask you questions about right to marry a person of one's choice, now that actually came as a part of Hadia judgment. That was actually, quote unquote, Justice Diva Chandrachud. Simple. And I was like, and this was, I think, if I'm not wrong, 2019 question, if I'm not wrong. And I remember distinctly, this is something, Supreme Court is the final custodian of the Constitution, final interpreter of the Constitution. In a way, UPSC has done the correct thing. Why? And I'll see this. So you understand law in a particular way, and suppose you're a lawyer, and I understand law in a particular way, and I'm a lawyer, and there's an executive who understands law in a particular way, and a legislative body who understands law in a particular way. But final interpretation is that of the Supreme Court, whatever they say. So they say law is this. So UPSC is today asking you that. I'm just taking example of one is judiciary. Second, the questions like legal aid, right? Now, this is something that we ought to know. Imagine you are an administrator, or tomorrow you are a police officer, you're an IPS, you need to help somebody. You should know that a person who does not have means, a person who does not have money, or does not have resources, he can he not receive legal aid. Okay. Instead of memorizing that there is something called, and I'm not taking anything away from it, that there is something called equality before law, but how does it manifest on the ground? So in a way, those questions have become very, very practical. And practicality is something that we were absolutely strangers to ever since we were in school. Okay, so nobody taught us. So even if when I'm teaching NCERT, sometimes I realize, so NCERT class 8th book, Kanishk, if you see that, I realize the very important part that I may be wrong on 8th or 9th, whatever. There is a part which says rural livelihoods, and in that part there is a photograph of a khasra khatoni, land records, if you would recall on that part. So khasra khatoni, so I know property laws and land laws like the back of my hand. I used to teach also at times. So every second lawyer, and I mean lawyer, practicing lawyer, wouldn't know how to interpret an ROR even today, until unless he's a property lawyer. Now, when I'm speaking of lawyer, I think everybody else might as well be forgotten. But it was taught to us when we were in class 8. But did our teachers emphasize that? No. So should we be known? Yes. Why? We are a primarily agricultural economy, and most of our land are in the form of RORs. We should know what is a khasra khatoni, which is a lekpal, who's a kanungo, tehsildar. We don't know this. And why should we not know this? This is what people have started calling as difficult exam. It's not a difficult exam. This is how it should have been in the first place. You're becoming administrators. I'm not challenging Kanish because he was the topper of his college. I am not choosing XYZ because he was a university gold medalist. I was not choosing anyone because you have just cleared your NTSC. I'm not interested in that. I want administrators. So let me first check whether you are worthy of becoming an administrator. Do you understand ground level or not? Okay. Do you understand that there is a difference between chief secretary and cabinet secretary? How many of aspirants know this? I don't think so. Everybody wanted that, What's the difference between a chief secretary and cabinet secretary? It's a question, but not many people won't understand. So sometimes if you remember, I actually gave a question also. Where is Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration located? And you will notice, and I hope you remember that, it has never happened that people have answered 100%. In fact, 70%. And I was like, God, what are you planning to do? So I don't write Labasna, I write Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy. Yeah. Then I make a very serious face as if it's a very difficult question, and then people don't answer. So I think, a very important change is required. And then two things. One, those practical aspirants will be chosen. And second, India will be better off with such administrators. So I think UPSC has gone correct way. And this is a very important correction that all of you, course correction, time for course correction. Please start reading newspapers and then go to the books. Don't go to the books. Don't start with the books and go to the newspapers. Newspapers is where the event is happening. So Maratha reservation throws open a plethora of queries and questions on our reservation policy. It is a big thing. It's a big decision. Was Indra Sani judgment has not been reconsidered. Maratha reservation will be throwing open It will open a Pandora's box. Can we not? Can we? Should we? Whatever. So all the questions are open, out in the open, needs to be addressed. And that's the way it should be. I think so. So time has changed.
And on that note, I think, it's also deviating just simply from, the largest strategic questions. I think it's also important to, note how the Supreme Court is, kind of pushing us in this direction to understand that reservations aren't the only way to ensure that the people that we have left behind historically, or the people who have been historically discriminated, that they are brought up to the same level as, as a level playing field, for the lack of a better word.
Sure.
And, given that the present circumstances are changing, we cannot ignore the manifest impact of education and, other, pro-poor policies or pro-backward class policies. So yeah, a very interesting observation on you, sir. And on that note, now that we have discussed the changes in the exam pattern, I think it's also important to dispel certain myths that we have had floating around. So, the common myth being you need at least 5 years of preparation to crack this examination. That being the most common, right? But what, according to you, are the most, ridiculous yet widely universalized, myths about this examination, and not just about the examination, but about the methods you must take to crack this examination?
See, one of the myths of this time, Ganesh, is, thank you that you brought that up. Okay, because what do I do in this time is what matters. Okay, we have a Tina Dabi, we have a Roman Seni, okay, and we have so many more examples who cracked this in the first exam, in the first attempt, and also not even, and there are many others who've taken this in the first attempt and then cracked it again for improving their rank, almost as if it is so easy to do. It's not easy, but certainly, they just make it look that easy. What most people don't understand, and what most people have really ignored on this part, is that 1 year they actually spend time only, okay, at least in the first attempt, the first year, they're only spending time making speculations. And speculations on what? Speculations on teachers, speculations on books, speculations on coaching institutes, speculations on sometimes UPSC itself, okay, or the government policy. Okay. Now, if you take a bypass route and forget about this 1 year of speculation, because I think majority of the students, for them the second attempt becomes the first attempt, all right, and the second attempt they're actually starting to study. So if you can actually let go of this and start believing, start first believing, first get a solid source and then start believing that this is not the case, that you have to do XYZ things or whatever we spoken in the terms of so-called strategy, and then start really getting the so-called nose to the grinding wheel. Okay, start getting the job done. Okay, it's finished. Okay, you've spoken, you'll actually spare yourself the horror of 1 year. Okay, because that 1 year you're not doing anything and you are only harassing and see, believe me, I am not a supporter of the concept of failure is the best teacher. Okay, at least if it is an avoidable failure. Okay, if it happens, it happens. We'll live with that. But why do you want to fail unnecessarily? So an attempt is an attempt, and it is 1 year out of your life and 1 year of your productive life. Okay, you are practically, in the earning part of your life. So this is one of the myths. Let's just dispel it right now. I think first attempt is a very beautiful attempt, and you can go it right and finish it off. Sometimes, God forbid, something goes wrong. Second attempt is always open. In fact, the third is also open. But that is, we'll cross the bridge when we come to it. For the time being, just make sure that you make the most of it. This is one. Second here is the problem of online versus offline. Okay, this is another problem. So I don't want this. Studying, learning must happen. Okay, learning must happen, and a very important part of it is self-learning. Now, I did not say self-preparation. I said self-learning. So you get preparation done under the guidance or the mentorship of somebody who knows the subject. Okay. And am I allowed to be arrogant?
I mean, sure, sir.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you got to be managed. So somebody who knows a subject like I do. Okay.
I was really caught off guard with that question.
So somebody who knows a subject like I do. So get subject experts. Okay. So get subject experts, get their guidance, and then do self-learning. Okay. So then you start studying. Then you start teaching yourself once you've learned from a subject expert. So in the words, so I don't know whether it is correctly attributed to Einstein or not, but he said that the definition of insanity was doing the same thing over and over again, then expecting a different result. Okay. And this is what most people are insane about. So you do the wrong thing again and again and again, and you say the results are not coming. Instead of that, learn from a subject expert, then learn again and again and again and again. Iteration is magic. That's what I always say. But the iteration of the correct thing is magic. Okay. So if you do the wrong thing again and again, won't help you in any case. So I would suggest that 2 myths absolutely go away. I think in 1 year, you can crack open this exam. In fact, you can top this exam. So later of this part. Second, whether it is online, offline, mixture of two, a very important contributor of your life would be yourself and a good mentor. Okay. So let's keep the basics right down to the minimum and do it. After this, do it. That's the job. Just do it. That's my point.
Right, sir. And thank you for that. And I think that, very nicely transitions into the next question that I have, right? Primarily about mistakes and errors. And since you mentioned something about, it being a very avoidable mistake, what do you think are some of the other very, very avoidable mistakes that, aspirants make while preparing for this examination? And would you suggest anything to completely avoid these errors?
One mistake that I think it is, how do I know? It's so repetitive. It is so commonly done. It is done so many times in so many different ways. Is that we understand this as a school level exam. Okay. We understand this as a school level exam, a complete school level exam in which there was a fixed syllabus. Okay. And also important part is that the college days. Okay. When we were in college days, we were told यूनिवर्सिटी के प्रीवियस इतने क्वेश्चंस आएंगे, यही आएगा. There is no fixity in that. Learn to live with indefinite syllabus. Learn to live with inconsistency of UPSC. I think there is a sort of sarcastic acronym, Unpredictable Service Commission, it is called. So learn to live with it. So please get out of the school, get out of the college. First is this, step number 1. Step number 2. The self-defeating belief system that I cannot change, especially in terms of language, is going to be a very major problem. So many friends tell me, sir, humko English nahi aati because we were in Hindi medium school or something of that sort. This is going to be absolutely fatal to your chances of passing this exam. Please get away from this part. Third, very major problem is, I always say, I don't know, for a lack of a better word, it's called Gyan Varsha. So there are many people who are, unnecessarily rumor mongering, aisa hota hai, reservation and so on. You have to make the best of the conditions that you are in. So there are many people. So I had visited a long time back. Okay. So I was in Berlin for a few years in my life. So I saw the bureaucratic working and the field of the legal work over there and so on. And when in those early days when I used to speak to people around me, like, look at Germany, look at the way they function and so on. So one day, one wise man got hold of me and said, Sidharth, that's Germany, this is India. Change India in the conditions that it is now. There are certain realities we have. There are certain realities what Germany has. In the same way, this is UPSC as you see it now. Okay. This is the situation. These are the types of questions. This is the reservation. This is XYZ. These are the situation. And this is COVID. So learn to live with it. Get yourself into the reality and then I think it will be absolutely perfect. First, absolute focus. I will cross this journey. That's it. Simple. No matter what, rest of it is only time pass. So get to the subject ASAP. One more thing, Kanish, before I say anything else. I would like everyone, and I say this to everyone, the biggest mantra of cracking this exam is start early. Start earliest, in fact, possible. Because you're bound to make mistakes. You're bound to make mistakes. The course correction will require time. I told you myself while you were asking, I could have very, very easily, taken the so-called gold cup and said that, I was the best teacher the day one. No, it was never happened. Okay, it's false and it's a complete, absolute wrong statement, because this is not how things are supposed to be. I learned it. Okay, I learned it. So I believe, I don't know which movie I took it from. I'm a movie buff kind of stuff. So it says, sometimes sometimes you just jump over the bridge and then make your wings on the way down. So I think Meryl Streep, some movie she said or something like that. I don't know why.
Right.
Movies have a...
And you are, probably one of the biggest fans of Bollywood that I have personally ever come across, and that includes everyone in my family who are, pretty big fans of Bollywood. So that brings me to the final question I have, right? And this is probably, this is a question that hasn't really been addressed by anyone, right? Across most of the strategy videos that you come across, across most of the people recommending how to study for this examination. Is it ever okay to take a break? Maybe you take a day off, maybe a movie once a week. Is it acceptable, or is the ideal aspirant, again, I'm using ideal in a very loose sense here, but is the ideal aspirant always supposed to be glued to his books and, ensure that he sees nothing other than the laser focus of the civil services ahead of her or him? And essentially, how do you balance your work life, and how do you deal with this pressure if you cannot take a break, for example?
I'll be damned if I am being made to appear for an exam in which I cannot take a break. In fact, even the warriors, there's a war zone. I can tell you, because as I said, I come from a forge family. So, I've been told, even in the middle of the war, bombardment, howitzers and everything, people take a break, they're doing this, starts a party. I mean, who's a soldier who cannot enjoy? It's such a bad life. And you're soldiers of a different type, you're academic soldiers, enjoy, absolutely. Have fun. Everything is about it. The point here is, when you're working, work. When you're enjoying, enjoy. When you're partying, party. The point happens when there is a mixture. So I'll tell you something. So there was a situation, and I'll just share this thing. So there was one student who called me up, and he said, and he started crying actually. And this was early days. He said, "Sir, I want to join your courses. Can you please do all your courses on YouTube, because I don't have the money or whatsoever." There are pains, Ganesh. There is more problems, more pain, more dukh, more pida than we can actually imagine. In fact, I actually sat down with the Unacademy team one fine day, and trust me that, and believe me, this is Unacademy. Why do they bring such programs? Okay, like the 4-in-1 program that is being launched. Okay, why do they give? I don't know whether the students are aware of this part or not, or the aspirants are. So there's a 4-in-1 program. Now, if you take it till 12th May, I think I'll share the links on this part. You can get an extension of the course for the same amount of money. Okay, you can get free books worth 10,000, 20,000, etc., and for free money. Why? We want to reach out. We want to reach out. Try and be of greater help to you. So first of all, relax, chill out. Okay, the world is not that harsh a place. Okay, it is not that difficult an exam. It is not a so-called impossible exam. It is not a low probability exam, like Kanish very well said. All you need is one seat. Okay, even if Kanesh, you require one seat and there are 10 contenders, please believe me, it is as difficult because there are 9 more contenders fighting for you. So it can be 10 lakh also. Who cares? Doesn't matter. So for that matter, even there are two. So in a chess competition is not any less severe than any other. Vishwanathan Anand playing Carlsen. Okay, it is as severe. So only one is going to be a winner. So there are only 2 contenders. In that way, it would have been a very easy thing to become a chess champion. So numbers are just a matter of time. So let's not get into that understanding on this part. Okay, I just want you to say one thing: believe and work for it. Don't think too much. Okay, don't go into the emotional part of it. Emotions later. Start crying later. You might have seen sometimes, Usain Bolt and everyone, after they win, okay, they start crying. Because that's the way they let go. For the time being, don't go into the emotions. This is the problem with my father, mother. I know it happens. But this is not the basis on which you will crack this exam. So go for it. We are with you completely in whatever ways possible. We are with you. And believe me, I couldn't become a civil servant. But this is my pent-up desire when it comes out. And sometimes Kanesh is very, very aware of this. Sometimes I lose my temper. Okay. I really blow my top. Why are you not studying? Okay. Because I want you to become. If you deserve it, this country, if you deserve to become the bureaucrat of this country would be a far greater country. And trust me, this is what really matters. Okay, so go for it, my friends. Go for it. We are there for you, and Unacademy is there for you, and in all possible ways. Okay, minus please don't unnecessarily complicate issues which are not there. Right. So just have fun, enjoy the journey, because I think the journey really, really matters, and then things will be absolutely fine. So, और ऐसा नहीं है that at the end of this journey problems नहीं होगा. There will be bigger problems. There will be different problems. But this is the point where I want you to win. Go win. Okay. So Fateh kar. This is very, very important this time. So निश्चय करो and Fateh karo. That's very important. So go for it.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for addressing all these questions I have. Again, of course, thank you so much to the Unacademy team for, letting me have this opportunity for this, very personal, very intimate one-on-one conversation and interview with you. And, on that note, again, I would like to thank Unacademy, the Unacademy team for, all these new events that are happening, whether it be combat or whether it be other subscription programs. And
did you realize, Kanesh? I started as the host. Now you're sounding like the host. It happens. So, so that's good. And that's what I want you to. Okay. And that is what Kanesh and everyone else, your leadership qualities, these leadership qualities, will come to rise. You asked me this question, Kanesh. The first question was, what is the ideal motivation of a civil servant? If you have this, what you have, if you have this leadership qualities, if you have something that I am not worried about leading, okay, I'm not worried about taking the initiative, then you should crack this exam for reasons far, 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 far bigger than merely an IAS or IPS written after your name. Far, far, far bigger. Okay. So, my dear learners, I'll take back the reign from Kanesh, and I will
thank you again for this opportunity.
I am very, very thankful to Kanesh for having spared his time, because very busy times and the exam is very close. So, Kanesh, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you all the best. Crack this exam. Okay. And also my congratulations to your parents, to your teachers, to having given you such good values, such good education, such good control on subject, language, and everything else also. And I also request all my learners and all the people who are watching this, please subscribe to this new channel. If you like this, please promote this, share this, subscribe this, so that things like these, channels like these, initiatives like these can spread out to even bigger things. The more we speak, the more we are able to share, right? It is always better that many people will get understanding. And this is not only me, this is not only Sidharth Arora. This would be coming out from many more experts, many more faculty champions and educators, students and achievers in their life. Will be able to share their life experiences, will be able to share their inputs or what to do, how to become successful, and this will be of great benefit to everyone. So, Ganesh, thank you very much. And this was beautiful talking to you. Your questions were as difficult as my questions are difficult sometimes for you. But thank you very much and God bless. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.